When we think of English kings, one figure often looms larger than all the others, both in history and in physical stature. That man is Henry VIII. He was not just a monarch, he was a force of nature who completely reshaped his kingdom. His story is not merely a dry list of dates and decrees, but a dramatic tale filled with passion, power, and profound change. He is famous for many things, most notably his 6 marriages and his audacious break with the Roman Catholic Church. But to truly understand Henry, we must look beyond these headlines and discover the complex man beneath the crown, a man whose actions would echo through the centuries, forever altering the course of English history and defining the monarchy in ways no one before him had dared. In his youth, Henry was the very picture of a Renaissance prince. He was handsome, athletic, and highly intelligent. He was never supposed to be king. That role was destined for his older brother, Arthur. But when Arthur died unexpectedly, young Henry was thrust into the spotlight, inheriting not only the throne but also his brother's widow, Catherine of Aragon. This twist of fate set the stage for a reign that would be anything but ordinary. He loved jousting, hunting, and playing music. He composed songs and poetry, showing a sensitive side that contrasted sharply with the ruthless tyrant he would later become. This early promise, this vision of a golden king, makes his later actions all the more shocking and compelling to study. His court was a dazzling centre of European culture and power. Henry saw himself as a magnificent ruler and believed his surroundings should reflect that. He spent lavishly on palaces, tapestries, and extravagant feasts. He wanted to compete with the great kings of France and Spain, and he used spectacle and grandeur as tools of statecraft. Imagine the noise, the colour, the sheer opulence of it all. This was a world of political intrigue masked by courtly love, where a single misstep could mean ruin, but favour could bring immense wealth. It was in this glittering, high-stakes environment that Henry's character was forged and where the seeds of his most famous and dramatic decisions were sown. Understanding Henry's personality is key to understanding his reign. He possessed an enormous ego and an unshakable belief in his own divine right to rule. He was charming and generous to his friends, but utterly merciless to his enemies. This was a man of huge appetites, for food, for power, and for love. As he grew older, a jousting accident left him with a painful leg wound that never healed, transforming the agile athlete into an obese and irritable monarch. This physical decline mirrored a change in his temperament, making him more paranoid, suspicious, and prone to terrifying rages. His personal desires and his political needs became one and the same, driving him to make decisions that would change England forever. Nothing defines Henry VIII in the popular imagination more than his 6 wives. The simple rhyme, divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived, tells a brutal story of his quest for a male heir. His first wife, Catherine of Aragon, was a devout and loyal queen for over 20 years. She gave him a daughter, Mary, but failed to produce the son Henry so desperately craved to secure the Tudor dynasty. His obsession with an heir, combined with his burgeoning passion for the captivating Anne Boleyn, led him to seek an annulment of his marriage. He argued that marrying his brother's widow had been against God's law and that his lack of sons was a divine punishment. This great matter consumed him and his kingdom for years. The arrival of Anne Boleyn changed everything. She was clever, ambitious, and refused to be Henry's mistress. She wanted to be queen, and she held out for marriage. Her stubbornness forced Henry's hand, pushing him towards a radical solution he might never have otherwise considered. After years of failed negotiations with the Pope, who was under the thumb of Catherine's powerful nephew, the Holy Roman Emperor, Henry took a monumental step. He decided to break away from the authority of Rome entirely. This wasn't just about love or lust, it was a profound political act. By marrying Anne, Henry was not just choosing a new wife. He was challenging 1,000 years of religious tradition and declaring himself the ultimate authority in his own realm. Anne Boleyn's reign as queen was short and tragic. She too failed to provide a son, giving birth only to a daughter, the future Queen Elizabeth I. When she miscarried a son, Henry's affections quickly soured. Convinced she was cursed or unfaithful, he had her arrested on trumped-up charges of treason and adultery. Her execution at the Tower of London sent a chilling message to the court and to all of England. Henry's will was absolute, and no one was safe from his wrath. Just days after Anne's death, he married Jane Seymour. She finally gave him what he had always wanted, a son. Prince Edward. But his joy was short-lived, as Jane died from complications of childbirth just 2 weeks later, leaving Henry heartbroken. The final 3 wives came and went with dizzying speed, reflecting the king's increasing desperation and poor health. His marriage to Anne of Cleves was a political disaster, annulled after only 6 months because he found her unattractive. Next came the young and vivacious Catherine Howard, whose alleged infidelity led her to the same tragic fate as her cousin Anne Boleyn, the executioner's block. Finally, in his old age, Henry found a measure of comfort and stability with his 6th wife, Catherine Parr. A kind and reform-minded widow, she was more of a caring nurse than a romantic partner. She skillfully navigated the treacherous court, managed the king's temper, and outlived him, having successfully survived the most dangerous marital job in English history. Henry VIII's break with the Roman Catholic Church was arguably the single most important event of his reign. It was a revolution that began not with a popular uprising, but with the king's personal desires. When the Pope refused to grant him an annulment from Catherine of Aragon, Henry did not simply give up. Instead, he listened to radical advisers like Thomas Cromwell and Thomas Cranmer, who presented him with an audacious idea: why should a foreign bishop in Rome hold power over the King of England? Henry, whose ego was already immense, found this argument incredibly appealing. It offered a perfect solution to his marital problems, while also dramatically increasing his own power and wealth. So, in the 1530s, a series of laws were passed by Parliament that systematically dismantled the Pope's authority in England. The most crucial of these was the Act of Supremacy in 1534, which officially declared Henry the supreme head of the Church of England. This was a seismic shift. For centuries, English people had looked to Rome as the centre of their spiritual world. Now they were being told that their king was their ultimate religious guide. This change was not just a matter of high politics. It affected every town and village. Priests had to renounce the Pope, and ordinary people had to accept this new order or risk being branded a traitor. One of the most dramatic consequences of this religious upheaval was the dissolution of the monasteries. Between 1536 and 1540, Henry's government systematically closed down over 800 monasteries, convents, and friaries across England and Wales. Officially, this was done to root out corruption, but the real motive was money. The church was incredibly wealthy, owning vast tracts of land. By seizing these assets, Henry filled his depleted treasury, funding his lavish lifestyle and expensive foreign wars. This act of mass confiscation was a brutal and destructive process. It destroyed centuries of learning and charity, leaving thousands of monks and nuns homeless and changing the landscape of England forever. Despite creating the Church of England, Henry himself never became a true Protestant in the way we might think of it today. He held on to many Catholic doctrines, such as transubstantiation, and he even had Protestants burned at the stake for heresy. His new church was essentially Catholicism without a pope. It was a politically motivated creation designed to serve his own needs. However, by breaking the link with Rome and authorizing an English translation of the Bible, he unintentionally opened the door for more radical Protestant ideas to spread. He had started a fire that he could not control, setting England on a long and often bloody path towards becoming a truly Protestant nation under his children, Edward VI and Elizabeth I. The impact of Henry VIII's rule extended far beyond religion and marriage. He fundamentally changed the nature of the English monarchy, concentrating more power in the hands of the king than ever before. By using Parliament to enact his religious reforms, he inadvertently strengthened that institution, establishing a precedent that the monarch and Parliament together could make the highest laws in the land. He was also a king who understood the importance of image and projection of power. His magnificent palaces, like Hampton Court, were built to impress and intimidate visitors, acting as theatres of power where the drama of his reign unfolded. He was a master of propaganda, ensuring his image as a strong, divinely appointed ruler was everywhere. Henry's reign also had a significant impact on the physical and cultural landscape of England. The dissolution of the monasteries resulted in the largest transfer of land since the Norman conquest. Great monastic estates were sold off to the gentry and nobility, creating a new class of wealthy landowners who were loyal to the Tudor dynasty and had a vested interest in the new religious settlement. The ruins of the great abbeys and priories that still dot the English countryside stand as silent monuments to this revolutionary period. Furthermore, Henry's patronage of artists like Hans Holbein the Younger left us with iconic portraits that have shaped our image of the Tudor court and its key players for centuries. Today, Henry VIII remains a figure of endless fascination. Why do we still remember him so vividly 500 years later? It is because his story contains all the elements of a great drama: love, betrayal, ambition, and violence. He is a character full of contradictions: the charming musician who became a ruthless tyrant, the defender of the faith who destroyed the church, the loving husband who sent 2 wives to their deaths. His personal life was so intertwined with the politics of the state that his desires shaped a nation's destiny. His quest for a male heir led to the creation of a national church, the execution of queens, and a profound shift in the balance of power. Ultimately, Henry's legacy is one of both creation and destruction. He was the father of the Royal Navy, investing heavily in ships that would lay the groundwork for England's future maritime power. He established a new national church and strengthened the power of the crown. Yet, he also ruled through fear, executing tens of thousands of his subjects, including some of his closest friends and advisors. He left his kingdom financially strained and religiously divided. Henry VIII is not remembered for being a good king, but for being a great one, a monarch whose colossal personality and earth-shattering decisions forged a new England and whose story continues to captivate us to this day. Please like and subscribe to our channel for more entertaining, fun fact videos.